Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood. Today we're going to be learning all about pumpkins, but before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Every autumn, the world goes wild for pumpkin spice. We find it in coffee, snacks, even air fresheners. That distinct aroma immediately makes us think of pumpkin pie. But what if I told you the traditional classic pumpkin spice flavor doesn't actually contain any pumpkin at all? What do you think? Is this an actual fact, or is the irony just too sweet? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Today's word is pepo. That's P-E-P-O. A pepo is a specific type of berry that has a hard, thick rind, a fleshy inside, and contains many seeds. This botanical term describes the characteristic fruit of the gourd family, which, you guessed it, includes pumpkins. So, not only are pumpkins a fruit, they're scientifically classified as a berry and, more specifically, a pepo. Other pepos would include cucumbers, watermelons, and squash. The term comes from the ancient Greek word pepon, which means cooked by the sun or ripe. The Greeks used this term to describe any large melon, and the word traveled through Latin into French as pompon, which was then borrowed by English and evolved into pompion, and eventually the word pumpkin we use today. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about pumpkins. Number 1. Pumpkins are one of the oldest domesticated crops on Earth. Long before they were used for jack-o'-lanterns or spiced lattes, pumpkins were a vital food source. Archaeologists have found pumpkin-related seeds in caves in Mexico that date back between 7,000 and 9,000 years. These ancient pumpkins weren't the big, round, orange varieties we know today. They were smaller, tougher, and had a more bitter taste, but they were incredibly durable and easy to store. Native American tribes cultivated and relied on pumpkins for centuries. They ate the pumpkin flesh, roasted the seeds, and even used the dried shells as bowls and containers. They taught European colonists how to grow and prepare pumpkins, which became a crucial food source that helped the early settlers survive their first winters. Number 2. Some pumpkins grow so enormous that people hollow them out and race them as boats. Forget canoes or kayaks, the most exciting nautical sport in some towns involves paddling a giant pumpkin. Every year, in places like Nova Scotia and Oregon, you can find famous pumpkin regattas. At these quirky festivals, competitors take pumpkins that weigh hundreds, sometimes even 1,000 pounds, hollow them out, and climb inside. They then paddle these lumpy orange vessels across a lake or river in a race to the finish line. If that sounds awkward and challenging, it is, but it's also kind of hilarious to watch. The pumpkins, usually the Dill's Atlantic giant variety, are grown specifically for their colossal size. Once hollowed, they make very unstable boats that are incredibly difficult to steer. Many participants find themselves spinning in circles or fighting just to stay upright, much to the delight of the cheering crowds. These regattas make for a joyous community event and a wonderful celebration of the harvest season. Number 3. The original jack-o'-lanterns weren't carved from pumpkins. They were actually made from turnips. The tradition of carving faces and vegetables for Halloween originated in Ireland with the Celtic festival of Samhain. According to folklore, a man named Stingy Jack tricked the devil multiple times. When Jack died, he was denied entry into both heaven and hell. He was condemned to wander the earth for eternity with only a single burning coal inside a carved-out turnip to light his way. This led to the name Jack of the Lantern, which became jack-o'-lantern. When Irish immigrants came to the United States in the 19th century, they brought this tradition with them. They soon discovered that pumpkins, which are native to North America, were much larger and far easier to carve than turnips, potatoes, or beets. The pumpkin quickly became the new canvas for their spooky creations, and the American Halloween tradition of carving pumpkins was born. Number 4. Every single part of the pumpkin is edible. While most of us are familiar with pumpkin puree for pies and roasted pumpkin seeds, the entire plant can be used for food. The pumpkin skin is perfectly edible and full of fiber and vitamins, though it's best to cook it until it's soft. The stringy guts that we scoop out can be boiled down to make a flavorful vegetable stock. Even the leaves and stems are edible and can be cooked like other greens. Perhaps the most surprising edible part is the pumpkin flower. These bright yellow blossoms are considered a delicacy in some cultures. They have a subtle sweet flavor and can be stuffed into cheese, battered and fried, or chopped up and added to salads and soups. So the next time you're preparing a pumpkin, remember that you can use the entire thing, minimizing waste and maximizing nutrition. And our fifth and final fun fact for today, there are over 45 different varieties of pumpkin, and they come in almost every color of the rainbow. The classic orange round pumpkin used for carving is just one of many types. Pumpkins come in a spectacular variety of shapes, sizes, and colors, including shades of white, yellow, red, green, and even a blue-gray. Some have wonderfully descriptive names, like the Jarrahdale, a beautiful blue-gray pumpkin from Australia, or the Galeux des, a French heirloom that gets covered in beige, peanut-shaped warts as it sweetens. Different types of pumpkins are grown for different purposes. Carving pumpkins, like the Connecticut Field variety, are chosen for their thin walls and large hollow interiors. For cooking and baking, smaller, sweeter varieties called sugar pumpkins are preferred because their flesh is less watery and more flavorful. And then there are the purely ornamental varieties, grown for their unique shapes and colors to be used in beautiful autumn displays. Now for some news you can use. If you want to step up your jack-o'-lantern game this year, here are a couple little tricks that can help you out. First off, when you're hollowing out your pumpkin, instead of cutting a hole out of the top, try cutting the hole out in the bottom. That will make it much easier since you can simply place a candle on that base and then put the rest of the pumpkin over it instead of having to reach down into the hole to place the candle. Next, as you plan your design, use a dry erase marker. This allows you to easily wipe away any mistakes and perfect your design without leaving permanent marks or scratches. Once you're happy, you can carve right along the lines. And after you're finished carving, you'll want your jack-o'-lantern to last as long as possible. The cut edges of the pumpkin flesh lose moisture quickly, causing them to shrivel and decay. To prevent this, apply a thin layer of petroleum jelly to all the cut surfaces inside and out. This creates a barrier that seals in the moisture and helps protect the pumpkin from mold, keeping your jack-o'-lantern looking fresh for several extra days. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked if that classic pumpkin spice flavor actually doesn't even contain pumpkin. Well, for the most part, that's a fact. The traditional pumpkin spice blend contains no pumpkin whatsoever. The name is a little misleading. It isn't a spice that comes from pumpkins, but rather a spice mix used for pumpkin pie to give it its iconic taste. pumpkin itself has a very mild squash-like flavor. The taste we all recognize as pumpkin spice actually comes from the blend of cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, allspice, and cloves. To be fair, in recent years, many coffee shops and food companies have started adding a small amount of actual pumpkin puree to their recipes, but the signature flavor you know and love is all thanks to a classic spice mix that complements the pumpkin but doesn't actually contain pumpkin. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about pumpkins with me today. Be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.